know I could beat her.
I know you. Very confident.
I'm very confident.
You say it so easily.
Easily. Why?
Because I believe it.
Hold it right there, if you don't mind. Let me tell you why.
What she said it with so much confidence the first time. But
If you keep going on and on,
I mean, if you want, you got to understand that you're dealing with an image of a 14-year-old
oh,
child.
child. And this child gonna be playing
Man, when your old ass and me gonna be in the grave.
grave.
When she says something, we done told you what's happening. You dealing with a little black kid.
Let her be a kid. Now she done answered it with a lot of confidence. Leave that alone.
I've seen quite a number of biopic, and I do not think that I've seen any biopic that kept me in this, position that King Richard kept me after watching. As a matter of fact, when I saw the trailer of this movie, I didn't think there was going to be anything to talk about. I just felt like it was just going to be one of those movies I sit down, watch, enjoy, and that's it. The cinematography, which was almost flawless, the attention to details, how they did not allow the sporting part of the movie overshadow the perfect or interesting acting skill that we wanted to see in the interpretation of the roles. Hello there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ellis, Serena, and you already know that this is another time to review yet another movie on my channel. If you're new here, you're stumbling on my video for the very first time, well, on my channel you get to enjoy great content, lifestyle, movie review, talk about everything in my head basically, and some of the things that I'm up to. So please make sure you like, subscribe, smash that subscribe button to enjoy more content like this one. Well, today I'm basically going to quickly do a reaction video to the movie King Richard, which of course you saw the trailer before this video, this part of the video came on, and I'm very excited about doing this video. I'm very excited about reviewing the movie. As a matter of fact, when I saw the trailer of this movie, I didn't think there was going to be anything to talk about. I just felt like it was just going to be one of those movies I sit down, watch, enjoy, and that's it. But when you see a movie and you have so much energy, so much thought in your head, and you just couldn't help it but just set up your camera and then talk. That was exactly how I felt about this particular movie, King Richard. If you've not heard about it, I'm just going to run through a couple of things that would make you consider seeing this movie before I do a proper review and tell you some of my high points and maybe some low points about the entire thing. If you're wondering what kind of movie it is called a biopic, that is biography of the life of a person. So it's like writing the true story of the life of a particular person into a movie, or turning the true story of the life of a person into a movie. So basically that's what a biopic is. I'm not going to give any spoilers. I'm just going to tell you a bit of the story. So we're introduced to Richard Williams, that was played by Will Smith, as well as Venus, played by Sidney. We also had this very young lady played Serena. I don't know all their names, but then basically when you check them out, you would know their names and probably just remember where you've seen them before. But we were dancing around the story of their family. So now this is where it gets interesting. So yeah, King Richard is a movie about the Williams. Okay, even though it's centered around their father, I think that it's a Williams thing, okay? Eventually, after seeing a couple of other things, I'll just call it a Williams thing. It's a movie about Richard Williams, that's the father of Serena and Venus Williams, the world famous tennis players, sisters for that matter. And trust me, for someone who is very into sports, I don't think I've ever I don't think I've ever had the opportunity of, I've ever taken the chance to read up on the background of Serena and Venus Williams. I know there used to be a lot of story, or there is a lot of story about their father coaching them at the early stage of their career and all that stuff, but I have never taken time to go read out or watch anything in line with their background. So watching these was more of an expose and a very revealing expose if there's anything like that, if you ask me, because it just kept me in the moment, and I'm like, oh my god, see what I have been missing out on. I should have probably read a bit of their life story, you know, but then I'm glad I didn't, because it wouldn't have made what I watched, it wouldn't have made it so thrilling as it was, or maybe it wouldn't have still, or maybe it would have still been this thrilling, because I feel like the depiction of the story in its entirety is what makes it really thrilling for me, if that makes sense. So yeah, basically it's the story of Richard Williams, father of Venus Williams and Serena Williams, tennis stars. Features also their mother, Ursin, and as well as their other sisters. Okay, so the story says, or the story reveals that Richard Williams was married to Ursin Williams, who is the second wife, by the way. He had left a family before he got married to this woman, who is now the mother of Serena and Venus Williams, who also has 3 children from an earlier marriage before she got married to Richard Williams. So there are 5 sisters basically who were introduced to, but of course Venus and Serena are from the marriage between Richard and Ursin. So it was very interesting to watch both of them shine and bond in between the story with the entire family. Of course, family of 5 children and their parents, so family of 7 basically is what we were introduced to. And we saw a father who had an idea of what he wanted to see in the 2 children he had from his new wife, that's Venus and Serena. And this was something, or this particular idea of what he wanted from his children even came up long before they were born. So he just kind of had a plan of having 2 girls, and he was going to train both girls to become tennis stars. You know, at the beginning of the story, I felt like this is unimaginable. How someone would sit down, write the plan of the life of offsprings he haven't even met yet, and then stuck with that plan from the beginning to the end. It felt crazy. At some point I felt like Richard Williams was crazy, but it happened. Because from everything, from all the indication, from the reaction of Venus and Serena after the movie was released, everything in the story happened. So I'm like, how? Is Richard crazy, or he saw the future before it happened? Because it just really felt like a man who was living ahead of his time. That's how I felt. He was keen on raising his children in a godly, humble way. He wanted them to study, he wanted them to be the best, he wanted to have his children be what he couldn't be, because for what it's worth, he was a black man who didn't have a lot of respect, you know, and he wasn't getting the things that he would love for himself. So he wanted to pour out all that anger and energy in raising his own children. You might want to ask, why didn't he do that with his other children he had with his other wife? That story we don't know, but then we know that he had a burning desire, he had the energy, the passion, the anger, and then he wanted to just pour all of that out to his new family and his new children, you know, that's Venus and Serena to be precise, even though he had an extension of that with his stepdaughters, that's the other 3 children his new wife brought into the marriage, you know, with him. So yeah, it was all of that and more, and then all that acting, all that embodiment of character that eventually made the story very beautiful. I've seen quite a number of biopics, and I do not think that I've seen any biopic that kept me in this, you know, position that King Richard kept me after watching. It's quite a revealing, interesting story. And then it just got me asking myself, is it even real? But bro, it is real. It happened. And one of the things that made the movie even more accepting for a lot of people is the fact that, especially for people who knows the entire story or who had an idea of the entire story, even to the sisters and the Williams generally, is the fact that this story, everything was authentic. Will Smith did not add too much salt or Maggi or whatever seasoning to make it as beautiful as we have it. It was authentic. As a matter of fact, Venus and Serena did mention in an interview I watched after the movie that they had to see the movie before it was released to be sure that everything was right. And they affirmed to the fact that they cried all through the movie, you know, not believing how perfect the entire thing was, apart from the fact that they had to relive their childhood. So yes, everything was authentic. I've talked about the cast, and let's get into some of the things I found very interesting in the movie. Again, I have seen several biopics, and I think that this one just really tops it or takes the game higher. Will Smith did an amazing job producing this movie alongside help from Venus and Serena Williams, as well as the other Williams sisters. And I think apart from the top-notch casting, which was almost perfect, you almost felt like you're watching the real Serena and Venus. It was interesting to see the cinematography, which was almost flawless, the attention to details, how they did not allow the sporting part of the movie overshadow the perfect or interesting acting skill that we wanted to see in the interpretation of the roles. It was just interesting how they were able to merge both professionally, how Venus was almost believable. It was almost believable watching Sidney portray or act Venus, and you could almost feel like you're watching a real tennis star, playing. As well as Serena, you could see the dedication that must have gone into training them to be those in character for the tennis role, and all the trainings and all the games that we saw in the movie. It was interesting. The blend was just perfect, and that was one of the things I found really interesting in this movie. I think another thing I enjoyed watching was the authenticity, and confirming from the Williams sisters, you could tell that they didn't try to do too much. It was just right on point. The storytelling, the scripting, the interpretation, everything was just right on point, and that made it believable for someone like me. The stories also, I don't know if it was the scripting that made the story, the lessons I drew out of the story more profound, but I think there was just something about the story of the Williams that is really, really profound, especially for parenting. And I say that because we're at a time where people are questioning how our parents raised us, and some of the things we're trying to have come back to life in this present age and time or generation, where it felt like our parents were forcing us to be something. They wanted us to be medical doctors, to be lawyers, be accountants, and then at the time a lot of people had to divert, a lot of people had to break out of that monotonous line of profession, and that was when we started having people go into sports and the likes, into acting and all of that. And then it was a question of, we're at a generation, or we are in a generation where we have to allow our kids to decide who they want to be or what they want to be. But then we're now at a time where you'd see people randomly play with the fact that they want their kids to go into tech or sports because that's where the money is and all that stuff. And it almost feels like we are repeating the same thing our parents did. But I think it's kind of came to bear, and I started asking my question in line with the Richard Williams story, that what if that is how it's meant to be? What if we're supposed to kind of have a path? We're supposed to kind of draw a path for our children and make them see reason why they should walk in that path, and also help them make it easy, or make it easy for them to walk in that path. What if? I don't know, but those are some of the questions I asked myself, because we could see how Richard Williams kind of had an idea of what he wanted the kids to be. In fact, he drew a plan out. He already had that plan drawn out. He was even already doing proposal before they were born, and even after they were born, we had those proposals given to people. You could hear him over time say things like, I have a plan, I drew this plan, I know what I want out of this kid. Even when his wife was confronting him and some of his excesses, you could hear some of those things come out. He had that plan, and I think one of the things I saw is how he was able to impute those things in the kids at that young age, and then it became believable for even the kids themselves, you know. And then he also knew when to let go. He was able to prioritize the reality of the world at the time, the fact that they had to be educated, the fact that they had to be versatile, you know, and then merging up with how he didn't want them to just be stars at an untimely time or prematurely, and then he wanted them to learn the lessons of life before they become, you know. Some of these things were so instructive, and I almost didn't find a fault in Kingridge, and even though there were faults that were eventually pointed out, and then I was like, okay, yeah, man, you're beginning to see yourself as the beginning and end of this kid. You know, I got to that point, and then I could see how he was able to, you know, take a U-turn. He was so reasonable that he could reflect, you know. He knew when he was doing a bit too much, and for some reason it just kind of made me feel like, what if that's how parenting should be? What if, you know, I was just asking, okay, this is not a parenting video, it's a review, but I just want you to, it just left me with a lot of questions. If you've seen the movie, you would understand why I'm asking some of these questions. And then I was just like, okay, what if? But that's aside, the lessons were so profound, the lessons were deep. It's something that all of us need to, especially intending parents and parents, we need to probably just sit down and reflect on. Apart from the beautiful storytelling and all those things I already recounted, it was just really nice to see how these lessons were there for us to pick on. Although I could see how grateful Serena and Venus are even in real life to what the lessons from their parents. I watched an interview they had with Will Smith before the movie was released, and the movie even had their mother in there, and they were talking about those lessons and how it shaped them, and it just became even more relatable away from what I saw in the movie. So generally, it's even very difficult to fault some of the things I saw in this movie. I think that it's a very incredible biopic, something that everyone needs to see, parents and intending parents. There's so many lessons to pick from, apart from how they somehow made God the center of their journey, you know, eventually. But I just really feel like we're very dedicated people, and that kind of showed in all of the things we saw in the movie. So yes, if I were going to do a check, I think I had a bit of reservation. You know, the length of the movie was something for me. It was quite long, it was 2 hours plus. Even though it was interesting to watch, I had to break it into watching it for 2 days, because the first time I started very late into the night, and the way I was feeling that night, I couldn't finish it, and I didn't want to miss any part of the movie at all. So I had to pause and wait till the next morning to just go grab my rest and come back. And then when I did come back, I didn't feel like I even left it off, because I almost was waiting for that rest to be over, like the day should come and let me just go back to this movie already. That was how I felt. So I went back to it, and it still just really felt afresh and anew, you know. I still felt the freshness from watching the movie. So yeah, it was pretty much long, but the length wasn't even a problem for me, because every scene was instructive, every scene was interesting to see. Apart from that, I had a bit of, you know, issue with how it ended. You know, when the movie ended, I was like, is that the end? Like, you know, it's just like they took us to a very high point, and then it just dropped us there. That was how I felt about the end of the movie. And then when it ended, and I saw the cast rolling in, and that song, which I think is a song from Beyonce, by the way, when I saw the cast rolling in, and then they started merging the real life of Venus and Serena, or clips from their real life into it, and I'm like, is that the end? Like, I want more, like. But then I can understand that that's the part of the story that needed to be told, you know. And then from there, it was just about the girls, the choices they made, and putting in the lessons putting in the lessons from their father and mother into the entire journey of their life. So yes, I think it was a very beautiful story that needed to be told. One of the best I've seen in a very long time. I enjoyed thoroughly every part of the movie. The cinematography was interesting to see. Everything was just interesting. The direction, the acting, the interpretation. I mean, I've mentioned all these things over and over again. and I totally loved it. The support they got from the Williams sisters also was amazing to see, and I think that's one of the reasons why this movie turned out as beautiful as we have it today. I think it's a movie most families need to see. It's a movie that people need to pay attention to, about basically the story, particularly the story, and then let's just see how we can make parenting more fun, more intentional, as well as make the needs of our children, puts forward the needs of our children, because at the end of it all, what they become or the outcome of our parenting would determine the kind of life we would enjoy as well as parents. So yes, I enjoyed thoroughly the movie. If I were going to rate this movie, I would rate it 8 over 10. I almost couldn't find fault in it, and I think Will Smith is going to get amazing things come out from this particular move that he made. And I just feel like I'm currently obsessed with the Williams sisters. I just want to read everything about them now, or just check out things about them, watch their interviews. That's what this movie did to me. That was how intentional, or how much of the movie I consumed, and I think I just love the face I'm in right now with the Williams sisters. So yes, basically that's a bit of everything that I think I can remember right now regarding this movie. I enjoyed it. 8 over 10, I'm rating it, and I just want you to tell me what you think about the movie in the comment section down below. Remember, I'm going to bring you yet another review very shortly. Just make sure you stay here on my channel, like and subscribe if you've not done that, and let's see in the next one. Thank you for watching.